Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week I am joined by Ree from the Magpies podcast for a game of Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is a game about criminals in the sunless city of Duskfall. It is sort of post-apocalyptic crime fantasy in like a very fantasy D&D-esque setting. It's very cool. It's if you enjoy games like Dishonored or the Thief series, you'd really dig it. It's very cool and evocative and flavorful, and the mechanics are brilliant. You can check it out. You can find more information about Blades in the Dark in the show notes. It is a staple of indie games. It was a ton of fun. I loved the game that we played together, and I can't wait for you to hear it. And speaking of Blades in the Dark, The Magpies is a Blades in the Dark actual play podcast about the Magpies, a criminal organization turned revolutionary outfit within the city of Duskfall. It is outstanding. It is incredible. I cannot recommend it enough. You can find more information about the Magpies in the show notes. Go check it out. Listen to it. Pause this recording. Listen to a few episodes. All right, now that you're back, go subscribe to them for more episodes. Check the show notes for links to all that stuff, as well as links to Blades in the Dark. And I think that's pretty much all I got. So with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down with Ree. Ree, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So, real quick, at the top of the show, why don't you take a moment and let the lovely listeners at home know about all of the stuff that you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
So I think what I think is most relevant to what we'll be doing today is that I am the
Perhaps
GM.
a little bit.
Just a little. I am the GM and producer of The Magpies, which is a Blades in the Dark actual play podcast. You can find it at magpiespodcast.net. We are, I guess, probably a little more than halfway through season 3 right now. It is a story about a crew of all women criminals who have now turned into vigilantes fighting for the downtrodden of Duskwall. So if you would like a story about a bunch of women kicking ass and taking down powerful, corrupt individuals who are mistreating the average citizen, that might have some appeal to some people in this current
maybe.
time. I highly recommend checking out the Magpies. One of our fan-offered mottos has been "Be gay, do crime." So there's also that. The other thing that I do as a kind of solo thing is that I run a freelance consulting business called Skill Check, and I do accessibility consulting and copy editing for the tabletop RPG community. So if you are a game designer or you know a game designer, if you're creating an adventure module or a new character class for the DM's Guild, and you would like to have somebody make sure there's no typos or make sure that your documents are accessible to anybody who might be accessing it, reach out to me. There's a nice contact form on my website, which is rpgskillcheck.net.
That'll be in the show notes. People can find it there.
I will provide links to all of these things for Jeff to include. So that is kind of my other big project in the RPG space.
That's awesome. Magpies is real good, is the thing.
Oh, thank you.
It's real good. You know what I really like about it? Granted, I am far from up to date, but in what I've listened to, I love hearing the crew just talk, like the comfort that you all have playing like the characters that you play, and like hearing the crew talk to each other and just be like so comfortable, like laying plans out with each other is very good. It just feels that's the type of thing that I feel like a lot of actual plays don't often get to, that I feel like you really hit out of the gate.
Oh, thank you so much. Good. Yeah, I am, the crew that we have as players, we had never played together as a group before.
That's wild
Blades
to
in
me.
the Dark.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, I just I reached out to people that I knew. There was like a whole recruitment application process. And so, we started playing as a group with this game. And it has been really awesome to see everybody just like sink into their characters and then build these really, really great relationships.
It's good. It's
among
it's
the
real
characters.
good. It's real good. Is the thing. Speaking of Blades in the Dark, let's get into some Blades in the goddamn dark.
Yeah. So, Blades in the Dark. Should I give just kind of a little
Give us the
elevator pitch?
Give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah. So, Blades in the Dark kind of is a the basis for the Forged in the Dark game system. It is an industrial fantasy setting. So rather than kind of the pseudo medieval fantasy of D&D or Lord of the Rings and a lot of those, this is a setting where there is electricity, there are factories, there are guns, but that fantasy element means that in this case there are ghosts and there are demons. I can't really do better for a description of the setting, and particularly the city that we are going to be in of Duskwall, than what the book says. This is the very last line on page 1. You're in a haunted Victorian-era city, trapped inside a wall of lightning powered by demon blood.
All right, I am up to speed. I feel like I got the whole scoop.
Yeah, it is. The city in particular, and sort of, so that's the setting. And within that setting, players are criminals and scoundrels. You pick a type of criminal to be. You can be thieves or smugglers or a cult even. And then you pick your playbooks for the character types. And then you go out and you do crime. And you build up wealth, and you fight against other criminals, and you fight against the citizenry, and you fight against the people in power. And you either claw your way to the top of the heap and become the people in power that you hated, or you become one of the many ghosts haunting the city.
All right.
It's it's a very I really love this game. I really love running this game. And as much as I made the setting sound very gritty and grimdark, it absolutely doesn't have to be that way. One of the things that I love best about Magpies is that we ended up going in kind of a different direction. They're still criminals in that they're breaking the law, but they are vigilantes. They are now kind of fighting. They're, revolutionaries a little bit. They are fighting for the common people, and they have managed to make some positive changes in the city, which has been really cool to see.
I love that. That's so. Yeah. I love that. I like that. I like that. I like the game. I feel like oftentimes games that kind of deal in this sort of tone will, and I think a lot of times it's justified, but they will make a moral judgment of you are a bad person and therefore you must do this. And I like that the game basically breaks down no, well, you're doing illegal things, and it presents it very matter-of-factly, but it kind of leaves it to you to put your own spin on it and say well, maybe what that means, maybe doing crimes, what that means is different to different people. Yeah, for sure. And it's also a setting where a lot of the people you're going to be targeting for crimes are themselves not the best people. Sure.
So, it's a pretty morally gray setting, but you can decide how gritty and dark and depressing you want it to be. There's kind of a lot of customization you can provide at your particular table.
I like it.
Yeah. So, do we want to talk about the particular crime that's going down today?
Yes, I do. I will introduce my criminal and my crew, and then we'll kind of go over the job the crime that we're going to be doing today.
Yes.
I am playing Grimbus Clean Hands Macaw. I'm going to learn to say that name without laughing, even though it is a very good name.
It's a really good name.
Is, like I said, his nickname is Clean Hands because I keep my hands clean. For an aesthetic, just literally think any character from the Disney film Newsies, and you're probably good. Grimbus grew up on a cruise ship, a giant steam ship. Think like a Lusitania or a Titanic style, big gigantic ship, where his family has lived off of the Dagger Isles for generations. They live on the ship. They do business with the cities, but the family lives on the ship. I got bored real quick. I needed something new. I needed some new experiences, so I hopped off at a port, and my family had the very supportive arrangement of like, okay, go live your life, but you are no longer a crew member on the ship. And so I was cut loose and sent on my own, and I was probably around 16, and I spent the last like 5 to 6 years or 7, 8 years like hanging around the city, you know, going to gambling rings, riding duck boats. Like, if there's a fun experience, I am there. And that is how I fell in with a group of assassins known as the Scale. The Scale are very well-informed assassins. They are a group of hired killers, contract killers, but they make it their mission to know the ins and outs of the people that they kill. They want to make the conscious moral decision. They want to be able to say with definitively, this person, this person does deserve to die, or this person did not deserve to die. Partially because we're very good at not alerting the Death Crows to our existence, which means that when a person dies, we tend to go visit their ghost if they were wrongly killed and say, hey, you were wrongly killed.
Don't ask by who. That's not important.
Not important.
Doesn't matter who killed you.
What matters is that you have that we are presenting you the opportunity to make it right and get vengeance. Or, if that person did deserve to die, we can go to the person that ordered their death and say, hey, if you want this ghost to go away, you pay us extra. It's a good arrangement. Yeah. It's a good scheme.
Yes.
We do well.
Yeah. You profit well from this. So where we open up, I think, in the docks, the docks district of Duskwall, specifically the boardwalk, where despite the fact that you can't really go swimming in the Void Sea, people will still come out to walk along the beachfront and enjoy any number of arcade games and live shows and various cotton candy and funnel cake treats.
Much like the boardwalks that I grew up in New Jersey. It's not nice, but you still go.
Yeah. And I think where do we find Grimbus on this particular, we'll say, foggy afternoon? It is dark. It is always dark in this world. The sun has ceased to shine in the sky. Daytime actually tends to be a little darker because there's no moon. Mm-hmm. So where are you hanging out in this area?
Grimbus is so there's like you said, there's like a handful of people walking along this boardwalk, and I think we hear from like as a crowd starts to part, we hear like a bell, we hear like a little like tiny like bell kind of jingling, and we see Grimbus is aggressively, angrily riding a penny farthing. And is just like riding it and screaming, and finally like screeches it to a halt, falls off of the bike, you know, it tumbles, kips up to his feet, walks over to a very bedraggled looking vendor, like hands some coin over and is like, worth every penny. Walks off, like walks into the abandoned like pizza parlor or candy shop or wherever, like whatever, like tiny ramshackle, you know, concession stand the Scale has made their home, and like walks in probably to see the gang having already kind of gathered around a map, knowing that means that like we have accepted a job. Grimbus tends to be like the last person to find out about these things because he tends to be, you know, the most out and about of the crew. Like they tend to come to Grimbus when they're like, hey, we need something stolen, less so than, hey, we need your input on whether or not we should take this job. Because frankly, my answer is always going to be, I don't know. Let's do it.
Yeah. Are they paying? Sure.
Yeah.
So probably you don't even care if they're paying. Just is it interesting?
Is it going to be fun?
Yeah. So, who do you think is the leader of the group?
The leader of the group is my boyfriend, sometimes ex-boyfriend. We have a difficult relationship. He is a ghost. His name is Royce Rambeau. And he kind of orchestrates he is the shadowy hand, fully understanding the implications of that statement of, like, the scale. He is the one that, picks the contracts, puts the people together, and sends them on their way, partially because, well, as a ghost, he doesn't want to, be too far out and about for fear of being dragged off by the spirit wardens.
Does he possess a body, or does he remain incorporeal?
He remains incorporeal. He has his body because he doesn't want the spirit wardens to drag it away, but he keeps it in a coffin. More because on one of our dates, I was like, it's weird. It's weird having a corpse just, like, out. You really got to do something about it.
All right. So I think Royce kind of looks up and, let's see, do you think that you're currently, is this, you said that you have kind of an on-again, off-again relationship. You think you're on or off right now?
I think we're on. I think things have been okay lately.
Yeah, so I think the shadowy. Go ahead.
I think it's a gray area of, like, it's on again, off again, but it's never fully off. It's that kind of, like, begrudging of, like, oh my god, I can't stand you, and, like, but, like, still kind of acknowledging that, like, we're still on for next Tuesday, but, like, oh my god, I hate you.
We're not talking, and we're shooting glares at each other across the lair. I bet the rest of your crew loves it.
Oh, they love it. It's half the reason they keep me around is because I am charming and cute to watch.
So Royce, the shadowy, translucent figure, looks up from the map and is like, "Hey, Grimbus, glad you could join us. We've got a job."
Is it a fun job?
It should be.
Well, I'm in.
We're gonna need you to do a little solo work to start, though.
Yeah, I figured usually if you're asking me, that's kind of how it works. But what's the score? What am I stealing?
So we've been hired to kill one Brance Templeton. He's a magistrate who, well, most of the magistrates will take bribes to let people go or put people away. This guy was just dumb enough to put somebody away whose family had enough money to do something about it.
Sure, of course.
So they would like him dead. The catch is that, based on the reports we've gotten, he has very robust arcane security. I can't go anywhere near the place, so this is going to be all on you.
Okay, cool.
And before we can get in there and eliminate him, we're going to need you to get in and figure out what's at the heart of this security system and take it. Because otherwise, the crows are going to hear about this one.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would be a problem. That would be a definite. Cool. No, this will be easy. This will be fun. Double my normal rate plus a per diem, and I'm in. And I flash just the shit-eatingest grin that has ever been grinned. Like, throwing that out, not fully unaware of whether it is going to be shot down or, like, accepted without hesitation of just like, we'll see. Throwing it out and we'll see what happens.
He gives you sort of a long stare and is like, I'll order dinner from that chicken place you like next Wednesday.
Oh, the chicken. You drive a hard... Royce? You drive a hard bargain. Everybody? When I look at the whole crew, that's why Royce is the leader. That's why. Right there. All right. You drove a hard bargain. You talked me into it.
Go do your fucking job. And don't get yourself killed. You're more fun alive.
I make no promises, as I kind of I do the thing where I lean back in the chair and I fall out of the chair and do kind of a backwards Willy Wonka roll and like land on my feet and like look around. I'm like, nothing. I swear, none of you are any fun, and I don't even know why I hang out with you. Next, extra. I want extra chicken for not laughing at that joke.
One of the other members of your crew just slow claps you out.
You're good. You're off my shit list. And everybody, like, I walk out. I kind of adjust my suspenders. I adjust my newsboy cap, and I'm like, cool. Time to steal something from a soon-to-be murder victim. And I look around, I'm like, oh, I should not have said that out loud. Oh, well, it's fine. Nobody's paying attention to me.
A small child with a giant thing of cotton candy just kind of looks up at you as they walk past.
And I go, so what happens next is I go around the corner from this restaurant, or along like a side wall. There's like a big giant like ice cooler with a padlock on it.
Mm-hmm.
I walk up, I look at the padlock, I reach into my pocket, I pull out what looks at first kind of like a Swiss Army knife, and I flip a lockpick out of it. And I less sort of pick this lock as I jam that lockpick extremely hard into the padlock and just kind of like rip the padlock off of the thing. It's how it works. We've done this a million times. And I pop it open, I grab my assassin's gear, I grab my rigging, I grab it all in like a big duffel bag that I throw over my shoulder, and I'm just like whistling a happy tune as I like walk, as I kind of like, and then I sort of stop. I think Royce's like body appears like translucently and Caspers through the wall.
Yeah.
Like hands me like a rolled up piece of parchment, and I'm like, yeah, I did not ask where I was going. Thank you. I appreciate it. Love you. All right, I'll see you later.
Love you too. Be safe. I'll see you tonight.
I go in for like a kiss. Like we phase through each other. Like,
yeah.
I think I ghost veil so that we can kiss, so that we can get a quick kiss, and then I phase out and I'm like, all right, I'll talk to you later. Do not skimp on the side dishes.
I will not.
All right.
All right. So, usually in a score, there's kind of a gather information phase where you would go around the city and figure out what's going on. You've kind of already been given most of the info that you need.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to jump right to the score, which means we get to do. Right now, I get to explain one of my favorite parts of the Blades in the Dark mechanics, which is, first, how your equipment works. So on your character sheet, you'll see this big section that says items, and there's all kinds of fun and intriguing gear. You're not going to pick any of this gear.
Okay.
Instead, if you look over where it says load, you're going to pick one of those. And basically, so if you pick a light load, you get 3. A normal load is 5, 6 is heavy. That number tells you how many slots of load you can carry. So instead of it being like, well, I'm going to pick 5 things now and hope I have the right stuff. No. It's Schrodinger's inventory.
Right.
Just when you get to a point where you think you need something, you mark it on your sheet and go, oh, good thing I packed whatever. It's a really cool way of making your character look super competent and prepared.
I love it. I love that a lot.
Yeah. I will also mention anything that's in italics, you kind of get as a freebie. It doesn't count against your load. So, so what do you think you want to do for your loadout?
I'm going to go with normal. Especially if I'm by myself. I think going loading up as much while keeping without overloading myself, I think is the best way to go.
I agree. And I'm guessing that you are aiming for a stealth approach here in terms of the type of your score. So how do you want to get in? You're dealing with somebody who is living in a large kind of manor house that's going to have a fair amount of security. So do you want to try and sneak in a back door? Do you want to try and get in a window? What's your plan?
I'm going to try to go through a storm cellar. I feel like, or even more so than a storm cellar, one of the kind of underground service entrances to like the pantry or like the sort of basement kitchen, right? Like where where kind of the hospitality staff are going, because there's going to be people coming in and out of there. I could theoretically, especially if I'm carrying what appears to be a large bag, I could easily give that picture of just like somebody dropping off a load of potatoes.
Yeah,
or
you're
like
here for a delivery.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
easily pass as a delivery guy just carrying a big bag of like ingredients. So I'm going to walk through. I'm just going to do one of the best ways to sneak in any situation is to just walk around like you're supposed to be there. So I'm just going to walk straight through that bottom service basement and look like I belong there.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is basically the one time in this game where I get to roll dice.
Okay.
Which is the engagement roll. And this is basically going to tell us where you're starting, what kind of position you're in when we jump right to the action. This is for people who aren't familiar with Blades in the Dark. This is one of my other favorite elements of it is you don't do any planning. You kind of pick a score, you pick a detail, like Jeff just provided, and then you just cut straight into the action. And there are some cool mechanics you can use to kind of fill in a plan, because your character made a plan. But you as the player did not have to spend all of that time sitting around and debating with everybody else, like, oh, but what if this happens? We have to prepare for all these eventualities. Nope, we're just going to cut straight to it. So, for the engagement roll, you get 1 die for sheer dumb luck. And then I'm going to ask a few different questions, and you can, as we answer them, this will add or remove more dice. Is this operation particularly bold or daring?
Yes, because I'm by myself.
Yeah,
Traditionally,
I think so.
traditionally, especially in the... So there was a tiny little thing that you said that I really want to expound upon, both to add some character detail and emphasize like what the stakes are here. When you had said Royce can't go anywhere near this, I think Royce is my like thieving counterpart, right? Like, because if the one thing Royce can do really, really comfortably is ghost shit.
Yeah.
I think like Royce is the person who comes with me and like, you know, walks through walls, sees where people are, turns invisible, and then goes and like reports things to me so I can take them. Like, we have a working arrangement. It's how we fell in love.
Aww.
So I think the idea that like Royce isn't here means that like I do not have my eyes on the field that I normally have.
Yeah.
And also my boyfriend's not here, and that's
you're missing that emotional support.
Yeah.
That's
it's not as fun.
Does the plan's detail expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they're weakest? So this is your entry in through the cellars. I don't feel like this is hitting them where they're weakest. I don't think they're also super well prepared against this approach.
I would say that. I would say exactly. I exactly agree with that.
So no dice added, but no dice taken away. Can any of your friends or contacts provide aid or insight for this operation?
I'm gonna if I can throw out an idea for a yes.
Yeah.
Because I have Rosalind Kellis, a noble, is a good friend of mine.
Yes.
I would like to propose that like before this, I kind of perhaps contacted her, perhaps we met at like a cocktail bar, and I had suggested that like it would be just really, really great if, you know, we could, if she could whisper in someone's ear who could whisper in someone's ear that like there is a gala party happening around, or like a party happening around for this magistrate to celebrate some puffed up achievement.
Okay.
To give that little bit of added justification for somebody being around, for like delivery people to be handing stuff off. The party doesn't need to necessarily be happening right now, but like
they're preparing for it.
Yeah. Delivery people are coming in and out.
Yeah, I like that. Are any enemies or rivals interfering in this operation? I think that's more of a me decision. I don't think so at this moment. I think that right now, that can always change.
It could come up. My bitter rival, Petra, the city clerk, who I won a lot of money from the city and sort of landed on her shoulders, could enter the scene at any time.
She could. Other elements that we want to consider. So this is a higher tier target. You are shooting pretty high out of your normal reach. So that's going to take a die away. But
Okay.
I think that's the only thing. So I'm going to roll 2d6.
Okay.
And then whichever one of these is the higher result is going to tell us what kind of position you're in when this starts. Okay. So I rolled a 4 and a 3. So the result here is a 4. So this is actually kind of the standard starting position. You're in a risky position when the action starts.
That makes sense. That feels right.
Yeah. So we see you making your way down through this service tunnel, and I think that there's a couple household guards posted outside of the thing, and you just kind of smile and charm your way right past them, no problem. You get inside into the kitchen, and your bluff was going to be that you are you're here to deliver a bunch of potatoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think you get in there, you've got your big bag, maybe you've put some potatoes on top for authenticity, and standing in front of the head cook, the kitchen area is a little bit busy. I think it's getting kind of towards dinner time. People are starting to prepare, so there's a lot of servants around. There's the cook, and standing in front of the head cook is a young man, probably a couple years younger than you, who has 2 very large sacks of potatoes on the floor in front of him. You have somehow arrived at the exact same time as the actual potato delivery. And I think as you step into the room, the cook looks up and is like, all right, bring over what you got.
And I pause and I look at the bags of potatoes and I look over and I wait for just a moment, and then I put on the face of like someone who is just extremely aggrieved, and I'm like, "Are you serious? Did you? I thought that we had such a good. I thought that you had a very good relationship with our farm, and now I find out that you're buying other bags of potatoes. This is a personal affront, and frankly, I'm a little shocked to see this, honestly.
Give me some kind of roll.
I'm gonna say this is sway.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sway.
So you are in a risky position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is going to be a standard effect.
Okay.
You don't have anything here that's given you any particular. I don't think you have a past relationship with this cook to help you out here. So
I'm going to roll 1d6, right? I have 1 dot in sway.
Yes. You can also, I do want to just sort of let you know you have this option. You can push yourself. You would take 2 stress, and that would get you an extra die. Or you can take a devil's bargain, which is where I will offer you some additional consequence that happens no matter what. But if you accept it, you get another die.
I'm going to push myself here. I'm going to roll 2 dice.
All right. So mark 2 stress. And then go ahead and make your roll. And then you just take the higher result. Yep. No math to be done.
That is a 4 and a 1. I'm real glad that I took that. Real glad I took that second dice.
Yeah. All right. So a 4. That means you do it, but there's a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
So you are... Okay. So I think she looks you over, and somehow your just dedication to this bluff works and makes her think that you are from a particular farm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let me look at my names. We'll say the Booker farm. And she's like, well, we had to go with somebody else because the last batch of potatoes that Booker sent over was half rotten. Bring yours over, let me search through, and whoever's got the better quality gets the coin.
And I think...
you don't have a sack full of potatoes.
Right.
You have a sack of burglary gear.
Right. So I think at this moment, I kind of take my bag I take my bag and I kind of showily am like, you know what? Let them have the coin. If our stuff is so rotten that if our stuff is so rotten, I don't even think we need your coin. I think that we can sell these potatoes anywhere. And I take it and I kind of puffily walk off, and like at the most opportune moment, I'm gonna try and duck around a corner so that I can like load up, like get my gear out and like suit up. Like I'm just at this point, I'm just looking for like a spot where I can duck, a corner I can duck away to like put my stuff together so that I can get to work.
Yeah, and like get up into the house instead of leave. So yeah, I think to make that disappearing work, I will need another roll.
Okay.
I would say this is most likely going to be prowl.
Yeah,
that tends to be the one used for kind of physical sneaking around type things.
And I think 2 dice here works. I think I've got 2 dice in prowl. I think that feels right.
Yeah.
3 and 1, so that's a 3.
Ooh, okay. Things go badly. So I think as you are trying to angrily stomp off, rather than going back out the door, you kind of try to duck around a corner. One of the guards outside heard your blustering and came in and puts a hand on your shoulder to escort you out. So you are now in a desperate position.
Yep.
You've drawn a lot of attention. You've got the household guards trying to remove you.
So can I ask a gear question?
Yeah.
What is a silence potion?
Let me see what it particularly says. I'm pretty sure that let me make sure. A vial of golden liquid that negates all sound within 10 paces of the drinker for a span of several moments.
Okay. So I think I am going to, yeah, I think I'm going to grab my flask as I'm like grumbling under my breath. I'm going to mark my silence potion vial.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm kind of around once I've got the spy on that nook, I'm going to push myself and I'm going to grab the arm. I'm going to put the flask back away, and since it's all silence around me, I'm going to grab his arm and try to like judo throw him over my shoulder and knock him unconscious.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to definitely push myself because I want that second dice, because I believe this will be skirmish.
Uh-huh.
So that'll be 2 dice. Oh, that's a 6 and a 5. That's beautiful.
Okay, so yeah, a 6 means that you do it. It just works. So my mental image here is that like the cook shakes her head and like turns around and like picks up one of the sacks of potatoes, and just as she turns her back, this guard just goes flying silently past in the background. And then you slink away into, I think it's like a little side hallway that kind of leads off further into the basement level of this manor. All right, so you've made it
I step aside and I kind of drop the bag, the potatoes roll out of it, I kind of shoo them away, and I like put on my my rigging harness. I put away my newsboy cap, and I pull on a little bit of I guess you could kind of, I'm picturing it as, I put on my goggle, like I get suited up, right? Like we get a very like, we'll keep the specifics vague so that I can call on that gear later, but like you get the full like Dracula movie Van Helsing like suiting up sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am like off into, crawling up along bookshelves and like making my way around people to like get into the building proper.
Yeah. So I think you're able to move further into the basement level. And what you need to figure out is kind of where the thing is, where the center of this security system is at. And you've got, I'm going to say, 2 approaches that you can kind of take here. One approach is you can, right now, on the job, try to figure it out with various rolls. Or you can do what's called a flashback. And this is that thing that always happens in a heist movie.
Oh, sure.
Where, yeah, it's like, oh no, the hero, the hero is in peril. Flashback to them setting up something that is specific to address this exact circumstance that they're in. So you can do a flashback to something that you can do. You can make a roll to have gotten some of this information in advance. Depending on how complex or unlikely or difficult it would have been for you to have pulled this off, it'll cost you some amount of stress, but that is an option that is available to you.
I think I'm gonna, for the time being, I think I'm just like creeping along, like, going kind of room for room, just sort of like moving, doing very kind of Metal Gear Solid, like watching someone walk off, walking behind them from door to door, making my way as quickly as possible, trying to, I don't have my eyes, so I am trying to do as much surveying now as I can to just get a handle on like where everything is, more so than trying to like get to a particular place, because I need to, before I am going to take this object, I need to know where I can fall back to, where I can hide, where the guards are going to be hanging out. Like, I want as much of that information as I can up front.
Got it. Yeah, so I think go ahead and make a, I think you said it, survey roll. And I think this is going to continue to be risky.
Mm-hmm.
As you're prowling around in here.
I think I'm going to stick with one dice. I think we're just going to see what happens. That's a 3, so I wish that I had gone with the second dice, but I did
not. Okay. So, let's see. I think that the guard that you judo through is found pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And he is revived and alerts people to the fact that someone has broken in.
Yeah, sure.
Someone attacked me and ran off. So what we're going to do now is start a clock. And for listeners, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this particular mechanic, but it's basically a countdown to something happening. So every time that there is kind of, anytime you face a new consequence, that consequence could be this clock ticking up. And when it fills in, the thing happens. So I'm going to say this is a 4-tick clock with 1 tick already filled in. So I'm just going to type this into the chat so we can track it.
Yep.
But it's going to be, you're at 1 out of 4 for basically the guards find you.
Got it.
So they are now, it's not just they're doing their normal patrols, they are actively looking for you right now.
Got
it. But you haven't been caught yet. However, you also still haven't found the thing that you're searching for. So.
I have absolutely not, and I'm trying to decide what my next move is. I think now that I know, like, I think I see them kind of like start to talk to each other, which means I know that they are starting to do patrols. So I think I get a little bit of an idea. I think the room that I'm in, it's like a guest. It's like one of many guest bedrooms, right? Like I'm on like the first floor of this building. I'm in like a guest bedroom, and I see that there is like a gas lamp. And I'm like, well, they're certainly looking for someone. If I, can get them all into one place, if I can get them into one place, then certainly then, I can act quick. So I think I'm going to, tinker with this, gas lantern, and I think my goal, I'm approaching this, I'm like, look, this is a win-win. Either I can, make it break and basically, like, turn this thing into a kettle, where, like, if I start a small lantern fire, like, it will, like, squeal, like, if I crack the glass in just such a way. or I shatter it and I start a fire and all the guards come and look at the fire, and then I've got the run of the place.
Okay.
So
yeah.
basically my goal is to turn this into a kettle so that I can, so that once it starts to squeal, they'll all come over and think that they've got me. Excuse me. And by the time they get here, I will be long gone.
You'll be gone. Very cool. Do you want to push yourself for Devil's Bargain on that? Or do you have 2 dice in Tinker, right?
I have 2 dice.
Okay. You can
So
you can still do either of those things if you'd like a...
That is my lucky insane clown Fosse dice got me a 6. Whoop whoop. So I'm feeling good.
All right. Yeah. So it works exactly as you wanted it to. You get the crack positioned correctly, and then you can do whatever you need to do to get it to start
Yeah.
screeching.
I crack the glass. I put a little hole in it with with a lockpick. I start the fire, and I pour just a little bit of water from a water flask. I pour it so that it starts to steam, and it shoots through that hole. It starts to squeal. I have passed through a window, crawled along the outside into a different room, and I hear a door kick in, and I hear guns start to click in the other room, and I'm like, I love my job.
Yep. So I think you can hear kind of the shrieking of this gas lamp and some confused shouting as they're trying to figure out what the hell is making this noise. Yeah. So you've got a little bit of a moment. I think I'm going to say that has put you into a controlled position for your next roll.
Okay.
So that basically means that you're the consequences, you're kind of approaching this from a position of advantage, and the consequences you'd face are going to be less.
So I think it's time to move. I think it's time to go back on the prowl, and I think it is time to. I think the trick here is to work a little bit backwards. I heard a bunch of people run in. Where I am prowling is where I heard them running from. I heard the stomp, 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 stomp. And so in my head, I'm watching, I kind of close my eyes and I see them running. And I'm like, well, they were coming from that way, which means that whatever is that way is heavily protected, which means I am headed that way.
Got it. Cool.
So I am going to prowl. I've got my 2 dice.
Mm-hmm.
That is a 3 and a 4.
4. Okay. So you've got an option here of you can either withdraw and try a different approach or do it with a minor consequence.
I'm going to take that consequence.
Take the consequence. Okay. So I think what ends up happening is that you start heading, you make your way down the hallway where everybody was running from, and you make it about halfway down the hall, and you come around, or you come around a corner, and you see down at the far end of this hall a big heavy security door that is just covered in arcane runes that have been engraved into the metal. And it's well, if there's going to be a center to the arcane security, it's probably that. But it's at the far end of the hall, and you have to kind of duck into a corner or behind a curtain or something, because just you see this door, and then another door opens, and a couple more guards come out and are they're in the middle of a conversation, and they kind of move out into the hall and keep having their conversation and then stop. So they're basically standing between you and the door that you need.
And I'm gonna flashback here, but not for an advantage purpose, strictly for flavor, as is the way. I'm behind a curtain. I am crouching on a windowsill behind a curtain, and I kind of reach up and I grab a little chain around my neck, and I flash back to walking the boardwalk with the spectral form of Royce. And Royce hands me a little box. And I open it, and inside is trying to decide what's appropriately what's an appropriate, like, I think it is, it's like, it's something, and maybe it's like a locket of hair, like from his, like, it's something from his body that he has like arranged into like a charm, and like that's my reaction. Is like in the flashback, I'm like, God, what the why? You could not have thought this was romantic. And he's like, of course it was. It's from me. And I'm like, it's your hair. What is
From your
wrong with you?
corpse.
Oh, you are so lucky that you are hot right now. Oh my God. And I flash back and I have it in like, I have it on like a locket, and I like kind of grimace as I I kind of like lovingly, like my eyes kind of go wide, but I also kind of grimace as I reach for it. I'm like,
It's still gross.
it's still gross. I love him dearly. Still very gross. And I touch it, and like I touch it, and I am going to I would like to enter the Ghost Veil.
Okay.
I would like to, so I'm going to take 2 stress plus I'm going to take an additional 2 stress, which puts me at 8 stress, just to keep a note on it.
Yeah. Finish telling me what you're doing, and then I'll let you know what happens if you fill up that stress bar.
I'm close. I'm real
Yeah.
close. So it's going to take me for a few moments. I'm going to go completely invisible and float through the air like a ghost. So I'm going to go not through the door. I'm going above the door.
Okay. Yeah, so just so you know, when you fill up your stress meter, you are going to take a trauma. And this is something that in long-term play would be kind of a change to your character. The stress of the life that you're living eventually starts to get to the characters of Blades in the Dark. Usually, in a standard game with more than one person, a character who hits the trauma level drops out of the scene, and sometimes out of the score entirely. They just have to leave because they can't deal with what's going on anymore. We will figure out what happens if you hit that, because that's obviously not a fun way to end this, but we'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I have dealt with some situations where like I had a guest player on Magpies who hit a trauma one time, and I'm like, well, I don't want you to just have to sit here and not do anything. Right. So we've got some options. But yeah, so you can do that. Burn 3 more stress to do your ghost shifting. Yeah, and so you're going through the wall over the door. Got it. So I think that when you're in your ghost form, you're seen through the ghost field, which is kind of just this other layer of reality that anybody can look into and access. But it basically, you see ghosts and arcane objects glow really brightly. And when you shift into the ghost field, you almost can't look at the door because it's glowing so brightly with wards and things. However, and then there's other like kind of lines of energy shooting off that as you get close, it kind of feels like putting your hand close to a fire, like it feels hot and dangerous. But you're able to, I think, maneuver around that and get into the room behind with your various abilities of floating and being invisible. And yeah, you make it into this room. And I think that eats up your few moments of ghostliness. And you are in this space. I think it's actually a pretty small room, but it is packed. Just shelves and cases of arcane stuff, and there are runes on the walls, and there's like kind of a ley line sort of setup connecting a lot of things. It's a very complicated arcane arrangement in here, and you need to find the thing at the heart of it that makes it work.
Yeah, I think that the best way, I think how I'm going to do that is, I think I think I'm going to tap a gear, if I may.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think what I have is I know that the scale. One of the things that makes the scale special is like we don't come uninformed, right? We know, and so I think like I stop and I kind of reach into my bag. And I pull out that scrolled up parchment that Royce gave me, and I roll it out, and it has like a sketch of the thing that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Like it has the specific detail. This is where I would like to invoke improved documents and tap the documents in my load of like I have an idea of not just like. I have an idea of specifically what I am looking for here.
Yes, yeah. And what are you looking for?
It is the Restless Crow. It is a small wax sculpture of a death crow, that you keep in that is said that if you keep it in your home, the crows will keep their eye on you because the crows watch after their own. So if you keep this small wax statue of a crow, and something happens to you, the crows act quicker and louder and more attentively than they would should it happen to a random person on the street. Like it is essentially a death bell that if something happens to you, the world is alerted immediately as opposed to a few hours, a few days, a few minutes later.
Yeah. It's a very morbid centerpiece to a security system, but
yes.
Here we are. So you've got this sketch, which I think that is going to give you greater effect when you're searching this room. So you will be able to find it more quickly and fewer consequences. But yeah, how do you want to go about searching for this little thing?
I think I want to. I think I just want to. Probably like stalk from like section to section, right? Like, takes a little bit slower, a little bit more intently, since I know that no one has come into their room. But I think I am like going from place to place and like, creeping around and like moving through the space and like keeping an eye out and like holding the parchment up and like, trying to fall into a place where it's directly in front of me as opposed to like looking for it with any kind of intent.
Okay. So you're aiming to use prowl here?
Yes.
Yeah.
If that is acceptable.
I will allow it.
All right.
And this is going to be
That's bad. That's a 1 and a 2. Those are both bad numbers.
Well, fortunately, I think you're still in a controlled position.
Okay.
Since you are alone in this room. So you got a 2. So your options here are you can either kind of continue doing what you're doing, but it'll be risky, and I'll figure out what the risk is, or you can like realize that what you're doing isn't working. You have to stop and try a different approach, but you'll still be in a controlled position.
I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to tap a piece of gear and try to invoke a different skill, if I may.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to tap Arcane Implements.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to pull out a little watch from my bag. I'm going to open the watch. I'm going to like bite my lip ever so slightly. Bite down a little bit harder than I need to. Wipe that little bit of blood on my finger, drip it into the watch, close the watch. Watch as it kind of rattles and shakes and starts to bite and starts to become very snake-like.
Ooh.
And then I'm going to set it down and I'm going to like start to wind it up as I kind of like unfurl the thing. So I'm going to turn this watch. I'm hoping that I may use Tinker here to turn this watch into like a bloodhound snake as an arcane implement.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a cool enough description. I'll go with it.
All right.
Yeah, and this will still be controlled.
That's a double 5s.
5. Okay, 5. So I'm gonna assume you want to do this with a minor consequence.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So I think that the consequence here is that it will work. You're gonna find this thing, but it takes time.
Yeah, right. I am relying. It's why I didn't go this route immediately. Is because I knew that like following around a little watch snake is not is not the most efficient use of my time.
Yeah, and so the catch there is that I'm going to tick up the clock of the guards find you by 1. So it's now at 2 out of 4. But after painfully long, slow minutes where this little thing is rattling around and bumping into stuff, and you can hear footsteps starting to move in the hallways outside. All
accompanied by this, like, that tick, tick.
Yeah. What does it do when it finds the thing? What noise does it make?
I think the watch, like, pops back open, right? Like, it tick, tick, and it, like, the ticks start to get a little faster, like, tick, 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 and then it, like, pops open and, like, the chain rattles a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So, yeah, it does that, and you find it sitting in front of a small kind of, I think, able to be held in 2 hands, small, intricately carved wax sculpture of a crow. That I think that it has, like, its head back and its beak is wide open as if it is shouting a loud caw. And yeah, so you're able to, I think it is, like, back on a shelf behind some other stuff, and there's a lot of these sort of runes and lines running to it, but there's nothing actually physical holding it in place, so you're just kind of able to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you do that, you can kind of feel, because of your overall attunement to the ghost field, you spend a lot of time shifting in and out of it. You can just sort of feel the kind of arcane lines binding this thing to the rest of the system just very gently break.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the thing.
And
now you have to get out.
Now comes the hard part, which is leaving.
Yep.
I think I scoop up the watch, I put it back in my bag, I stash the crow, and I kind of, like, I look for the highest bookshelf that I can find, because I'm thinking I can perhaps thinking I can perhaps, like, maybe either move a tile and kind of crawl into a rafter on the ceiling, or carve a little hole in the ceiling and climb out that way.
I think it's probably going to be the second one. I think the way that these houses are built, they don't really have ceiling tiles. Yeah. So, there's a bookshelf you can climb up on, but you're going to need to do some kind of roll for cutting a person-sized hole through a floor. You also don't know what's above this, so you're not sure what you're going to be cutting into. But
that's also true.
What you do know is that the hallway outside for sure has guards in it. So
do you know what I'm gonna carve? And I'm gonna say I think this might be Tink. This might be I think I can swing this with Tinker. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's above, but I have a pretty strong idea that there's empty spaces in the walls, the hollow space, like, between the individual walls, and I'm pretty sure if I carve out either, like, a lamp on the wall or, like, some sort of structure along there, I can make a hole that is I can be confident that that's going to lead to, like, a section of the wall that I can crawl through.
Okay. Yeah. I think Tinker makes sense for that.
Oh, that's my first dice was a 1. My second one was a 6. That was a tense roll. Let me tell you.
Okay, yeah. So then you do it. You are able to pull out. I think you're gonna need to mark tinkering tools.
Okay.
In order to do that,
for sure.
Pull out a saw. But yeah, you're able to hack your way into the wall and squeeze in there. And start working your way out. And I think, unless you want to do anything else, I think that we can have that be your escape of you just
I think so.
Squeeze your way through and then eventually get to an outer wall and...
Yeah, I can figure out, like, where that wall kind of leads down into the basement, which is sort of a larger open cavernous space, and then I kind of just, like, walk right back out, walk right back out of the same entrance I came in, newsboy cap back on.
You are notably filthier, though.
Yes.
Just covered in dust and cobwebs.
I'm like shaking. I'm like, "Gah. Never again, Royce. This was a 2-person job."
But yeah, you have succeeded. You have made it out. I will leave it up to you if you want to do downtime, because that tends to be more of a long-term thing, but it can also be kind of a fun wrap-up opportunity.
I think it's a fun wrap-up. Let's go through some downtime stuff.
Yeah, so for downtime, I think we're going to kind of jump the downtime ahead a little bit to after the rest of the crew has finished doing this murder.
Yeah.
So, the crew would get payoff in terms of increasing your reputation and also get money.
Mm-hmm.
You would take a certain amount of heat from the Bluecoats to reflect the fact that you are doing crimes and people want to stop you from doing crimes.
Cowards.
Yeah. How dare they? There's entanglements that, again, would just sort of problems cropped up on this score that would spiral out into other scores that you have to deal with. But we're going to focus on is the downtime actions that you can do. So on the sheets that I sent you, this is on page 3, there's a handful of activities that you can do. You get to do 2 of them. I would strongly recommend indulging your vice, which is how you burn stress. And then we can talk about if you want to do any of the other things on here as well.
Got it. Perfect. Here we are. Okay. So, I can choose 2 of these objects. Mm-hmm. I can acquire an asset. I can take part in a long-term project. I can recover. You
didn't get hurt this time, so you won't need to.
I can reduce heat. I can train, and I can indulge my vice. I think I'm going to. I got to indulge my vice.
Yes.
I got fired up.
Yes. So, let me look at the character sheet real quick so I can tell you how to roll this. So, on your character sheet, where you have all your action rolls, that first column you'll notice has kind of a line separating it from the other ones.
Yep.
That is where you would roll resistance in order to resist consequences or harm or things. And that's also used to determine rolling your indulging your vice. So of those 3, the insight column, the prowess column, or the resolve column, which one has the fewest dots in that first column?
Resolve and insight both have 2.
Okay, so in that case, you will just roll 2 dice and take the higher result, and that will tell you how much stress you clear.
That's Snake Eyes, baby!
Oh no! So for you would clear 1 stress initially. You can indulge your vice again if you would like to give that another try.
I think so. I think I snatch that money. I think I walk through the door. I snatch that money that they hand me as my part of the payout. And I don't even wait around to hear about the rest of the job. I am just tearing it up, right? You see me on the penny farthings. You see me playing roulette. I am more recklessly and more pointedly indulging in my love of doing stuff than I normally do because that job was very, very stressful.
Yeah.
And that is a 5 and a 3.
Okay, so you'll clear another 5, which I think should get you in a.
That puts me down to 2 stress. That puts me in a good spot.
Yeah, much better spot. Yeah. So. I kind of want to wrap this up. I think you just go out and have go on a 2-day bender.
Yep.
But eventually you do wander back to the cafe to find the rest of the crew has cleared out, save for Royce, who has obtained a tablecloth and probably stolen a nice silver candelabra with candles. And sitting at this very nice place setting is what I am imagining is a large basket of fried chicken.
Yep.
I'm glad
we were not picturing anything fancier because I had the exact same vision.
Big basket of fried chicken and then some French fries and I'm trying to think of there's going to be some some kind of seafood type thing, because
Yeah.
the food situation in this setting is bizarre because there's no sun. There's a lot
Sure.
of mushroom-based things. So there's some kind of like mushroom, I think like a mushroom coleslaw, basically, and then a variety of dips
And I
available for your
walk
chicken
in
fingers.
and I see this and I just kind of look, I'm like, are we tablecloth fancy now? Jeez, it must have been a good job.
Oh, we got a good payout and managed to lift a number of things from the late and lamented magistrate on the way out, and he gestures at the candelabra. I'm selling.
You know what?
We're selling the candelabra after.
I would not want to keep this thing. It's hideous.
Yeah, I know.
And I kick back and I just like, as I start to eat, I pause and I swallow my food. And I just look very serious. Like, this is the first time my face hasn't kind of had at least a little bit of, like, a goofy grin. Like, you know that kind of person that, like, even when they're being very serious, they have that face of, like, they're having fun? Mm-hmm. Like, that's my general face, and I've dropped that for the first time. I look completely serious, and I look and I'm like, I don't do one-person jobs anymore. I just don't.
And I think he kind of studies you for a second, taking in how serious that you are, and he's like, "Yeah, you got it."
All right. And I like, I'm immediately back to jovial.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it any further. I'm just immediately back to jovial.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that we fade out on you eating and your ghost boyfriend watching you eat.
Yep.
In your abandoned candy shop.
It's perfect. It's everything I love. This game was so good. This was so much fun.
This was really fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much for playing it with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me on to run this. This was super, super cool.
That was great.
Yeah, I love this game very, very much. And I'm kind of bummed because, like, this crew you've created is so cool.
They're very cool.
They're very cool.
We'll have to play it again sometime.
Yeah, that's the only solution.
Only solution. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was an absolute blast. Real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, so for the Magpies, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at magpies_pod. And you can follow my personal Twitter at Rhiannon42. And we'll, I'm sure, have links to all of those wonderful places
In the show notes.
Yep, but yeah, and then otherwise there's kind of the websites for the Magpies, and Skill Check are the other best places to find me online.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. This was an absolute delight. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap things up. Take it, future me. Thanks, Bass May. And thanks again to Ree for coming on the show. That game was astoundingly fun. I loved it. I desperately want to play these characters again. It was so much fun. Loved it. Be sure to follow the Magpies podcast on Twitter at magpies_pod. Be sure to follow Rhea on Twitter at Rhiannon42, and head to learn how you can make your games more accessible, because it's important. Then, while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Head to our merch store at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. If you enjoy the show, leave us a nice iTunes review, Podchaser review, or Stitcher review. I get all of those in my inbox, so those are the three that matter the most to me. And also check out my other podcast, All My Fantasy Children, which I just finished recording, literally like 2 minutes ago, when I started recording this intro and outro. All My Fantasy Children is a tabletop-inspired character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network. Every week, my best friend, Eric Catano Saez, and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is, of course, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming onto the show as a guest, or about press coverage for the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.